a truck. 10 of my buddies are already drunk. We don't go nowhere that doesn't have liquor and cigarettes. Riding mechanical bolts in the club. We like to hunt, leave with a gun. Come back tomorrow, we covered in blood with a bucket of guts. We all tougher than fucker. We pop in the clutch, we ain't stuck in the mud. I'm the white boy with the baseball bat, bunch of face tattoos and a NASCAR hat. In a backyard like scrapyard. Got a glass jar full of tobacco that's blacker than asphalt. Rolling with hundreds of crackers who acting like animals. They cannot handle their alcohol. We the white boys from the backwoods and the bad hoods. In the trailer park trash that pack guns. When I was younger, they taught me to struggle and hustle like 200 bikers. And they were my brothers. We coming for blood and you running for cover. Addicted to drugs in the gutter and drunker than anyone. Leaving the club, we go dumber than thugs. We got mullets and putters and multiple gunners that come in Hummers. You under the rubber, you'll never recover. Chain smoking, my lungs hurt, my neck red, got sunburns. Bumping Eminem, we all know the words. Bunch of white boys flipping hella birds. Hillbilly really don't care if you like them. Little bit of moonshine fire inside them. Kill him in a minute, don't care who's fighting. You don't wanna trip on the kids of Vikings. Camo and mullets and cowboy hats out in public. Got ammo stashed in my cousins and cash in addicts and cupboards. They all diss and we don't listen, can't hear it no more. We gone fishing, they gone missing. I told y'all before. I be on some white people shit. Hanging out the window of a truck, yelling, I don't give a fuck. White people shit. Every time they see me pulling up, they be like, oh my god, he be on some white people shit. Jumping out the plane, no parachute, so I'ma get the sooner. I ain't learned shit from school, always ditch Ferris Bueller. Screw your little truck, my square body over there's cooler. Every white boy riding with me over there, shooters. I'm the white boy with the Mossberg pump. Sit shotgun when I pop the trunk. The Northern a monster off the jump. I'm up, I rock a lots of guns. This ain't soccer, but watch them run. Shoot him in the lung, need oxygen. Huffing blood like he up and does. Talk too much till his coughing shuts. I'm never gonna back up too much ammo. We got hammered, used to battle. Had my fights right on the gravel. Back in the day, we used to handle shit like men, but now we're canceled. Look at us like states for cancer. Look at them like pull your pants off. Dumbass kids ain't got no answer. Looked up to dudes with tattoos and rap music, bad moves and abuse in my past, acting stupid. I used the bad news for the gas to keep moving. I made it where I'm at. Now you rather see me losing. All my guys got tattoos on their face. They did the time they got jammed. What the hell's a blue check? They ain't got no Instagram. Ask around, everyone knows. They might think that I care, but I don't. I'll be on some white people shit. Hanging out the window of a truck, yelling, I don't give a fuck. White people shit. Every time they see me pulling up, they be like, oh my god, he be on some white people shit.
Yes, segregated, but I'm still in the mix. I've been fucking with timer before he got cancer for speaking the truth about the world and exposing it for what it actually is. I see race as an issue, I'm running it back to the government to tell them this is a democratic, liberated, conservative, patriarchy dipped in action, affirmative hit song. Bet they still cut me a check. State that I'm in as my mind is way deeper than color. I ain't think I'm blue versus red. I'm in control, consider that I'm carrying more than you know. One in the chamber that's ready to blow. Right at you pussies who claiming you won't. I'ma keep praying that you get exposed. Promise. I'm not abiding by rule that you set for me. I'm not that mad at the past. I mean, it was only a couple of centuries. Well, actually, I'm pissed, but won't let that be my identity. So on behalf of all blacks, I forgive and don't want to be enemies. Just say you're sorry and talk to me nice. This is comedic. If you get offended, that's a reflection of your own life and how you failed to live it right. So it's not black versus white, it's wrong versus right. Cause color is just a result of these multiple factors that we didn't choose. I mean, mom, dad, race, religion, things we're born into. Generational curses that get undone once we undo moves. See life from a different view beyond our own skews. Manipulated by the news, crude things they use to confuse the masses. Put us in social classes, separated by percentages, paid for taxes, income brackets, clothes, cars, shoes, size of asses. I bet they try to blackmail me once I black out all these demographics and push past the stereotypical average and get blackballed and they cut all my traffic.
Oh my god, he be on some black people shit. Hanging out the window of the truck, screaming, I don't give a fuck. Black people shit. Every time they see me pulling up, they be like, oh my god, he be on some white people shit.
That's right, it's white people shit. And guess what's going to happen here? We got a couple white boys talking about shit. Jeffrey's getting caught up here on today's events. He's about ready to break this down. We are going to get to the Rashard Mendenhall tweet and the internet stir that has been just going on. And we're going to break this down from every single aspect. We're going to do a little disclaimer up the front, and we're going to tell you exactly how we feel. It is going to be coming up, so please make sure that you stay tuned for this one, because this is going to be a great tweet. We also have the Eagles absolutely mollywopped. And yes, if it was a 3-point game, they got mollywopped by the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. And then we also have a Thursday night preview, NBA. Our boy John Morant's back. Our fantasy basketball team is on fire. And, of course, it is National College Signing Day. Does it even mean anything anymore? Who knows? Let's get into it. Jeffrey, how we doing? I understand there's a little bit of turmoil with the Schneider household.
There's a lot going on today, okay? I'm going to keep my voice low to not piss anybody off. But people are sick.
We'll see how long that lasts.
There's sickness rolling through here right now.
The plague on your household.
Yeah, I mentioned the other day, right? Baby pink eye in both eyes. Okay, wife now has pink eye.
Inevitable.
Snyder household.
Now has pink eye as well too. So, and then the middle one is sick with some kind of a stomach bug or something. I don't know what's going on. All I know is that I'm not sleeping on my bed because I ain't getting that shit, right? And I'm sleeping downstairs on the couch, and I'm like this, right? You're gonna find me right here all day, posted up. If they call me and they need something, I'm bringing it to them. But other than that, I am.
Do you have the Dexter plastic, guarded off in the rooms to keep?
Ooh, yeah, that'd be interesting if you did it where your kill room, basically.
Yes, and just leave them all in there.
To have hazmat suits, everything. We would roll everything out if we needed to. There would be.
That's what they were doing down in COVID days.
This is we're about to be pretty busy this weekend. It
is a busy weekend.
It's Christmas, and so yeah, I mean, it started last night. We got cracked last night. Did like 80 covers between three of us. So. Listen, just what?
Nothing, dude. I just can't. I can't turn off the manager inside of me. I just cannot do it. I just can't do it. I hear stories of Bianca coming home and talking about her experiences that she deals with at work. Brief conversations that we've had. Obviously, Ian never stops. When we get together. It really makes me want to go back into it. Actually, me and Bianca were talking last night about opening up a restaurant again. Yeah, I know.
It's a dream for me and Ian, but I mean,
well,
how you get there, especially in this day and age with where interest rates are and stuff like that. And I mean, it
is what it is. I mean, you got to look back at the history of interest rates and things. I mean, interest rates are one of 14 to 15%, and these were times when we were considered the most booming economy in the United States. So I mean,
that's true.
It is a workaround, but we were talking about obviously I'll never forget Chef Gordon Ramsay, right? And I used to be a big Gordon Ramsay fan. If you don't know, he does follow me on Twitter. We've had some conversations just from Hell's Kitchen. I didn't really enjoy the Hell's Kitchen, but from like Kitchen Nightmares, things of that nature. And for those who don't know,
Kitchen Nightmares, I always liked. I never liked Hell's Kitchen.
Right, I didn't like Hell's Kitchen. It just seemed too theatrical for me. I've always been in restaurants my entire life, and I'll never forget, his thing was just KISS, keep it simple, stupid, do something and execute it better than anybody else. And that's why when you see like Gordon Ramsay burgers, it's just burgers. So we were I was, Bianca was just listening to me. I guess that's what it is. All of this, this whole area around me is just completely blowing up, obviously. Something small, a little 12-seat bar. A little 6-seat, 4 tables, small, just burgers and wings, man, and just execute it better than anybody else.
Yeah, I think like pizza's a niche too that we haven't really in the Orlando area, and at least this side of town hasn't really perfected yet. I was very optimistic for V's Pizza when it first opened. It's good. It's just not what I would hope for. Valdiano's is pretty good if you're looking for like by the slice. It's kind of out by Summerport.
That's the biggest thing right there. It's like, I want to be able to just buy a slice. Why do I have to spend $60 on pizza? If you Uber Eats or deliver, it's $60. I got from Paisano's the other night, which it was okay. Yeah. It was a little. It wasn't the best, right? Very very floppy, very greasy.
Chicken parm's great there, but
I had the pizza, and I think I got 2 calzones, and then I got a salted cheesecake for my wife. It was like $75.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, fantastic. And I had like 2 pieces of pizza, and this was the medium, by the way. And I was like, okay, I'm done. And I'm not a big leftover pizza guy. To me, even if you heat it up the right way, which if you look at it, you're supposed to do it just like they do it. Broiled oven, as hot as your oven can get. Make sure that you put the pan in first so the pan is hot as well. So you don't want a cold pan on there to go in there. It's just not the same, dude. And so if you don't eat pizza out of the box directly, right, and finish it, it's never the same. Never.
I agree. Well, one of my boys taught me a reheating method one time, which was basically you take oil, line it on the very bottom, throw it in a cast iron skillet to kind of crisp up the bottom of it. Then you hit it with a little water in there so it steams, cover it so the cheese melts, and then boom, you're good to go. But it's a lot.
That seems intense.
Reheating a slice of pizza, you know what I mean? Like,
That is
Which I always
intense.
found funny. Like V's Pizza won't like let you. They'll let you take your pizza to go, but they don't recommend you eating it because of the zero proof dough or whatever that they use.
Double A
becomes-
negative, double O
Yeah,
negative, whatever.
So they're like you have to reheat it on a pizza stone because otherwise, if you reheat it the other way, it's just
You know who had great
not-
pizza
not
back
the best.
before? Miller's Fieldhouse.
Miller's Fieldhouse, bro. The Fuego pizza or the
They had
Diablo,
great
whatever
pizza.
it was, with that sriracha lime and the
Oh.
charred pepperoni and
And all of their
That
pizza
oven
was
was
very,
great.
very good. I don't
Yeah.
understand why they never made it. I know the rent there was just absolutely insane, but I mean something else has gone in there.
I'm surprised Craig. No, I don't think anything went in there.
The layout sucked. Yeah, no, there's something in there. There's something in there. I drove by it the other day.
Craig didn't open a different spot, but
He was
we
over
digress.
it.
We digress.
I talked to him about it. I mean, because we used to go there all the time. Obviously, Larry D and Jeremy obviously was there. The layout kind of sucked, in my opinion, the way everything was kind of laid out. And then he was just over it. His kids didn't really want to be in it anymore. He had already made his money, and he decided to move on. But yeah, I think pizza would be kind of tough for me, man. I just feel like there's so much competition with pizza.
I feel like Fieldhouse, you could have knocked down that. So instead of having inside and outside, you could have just knocked it down and made it one thing and had like Graffiti Junction used to do. They had the thing that just kind of rolled over. So it was more of an indoor outdoor vibe. And it would have opened up the entire space too. Instead of having that wall there, and then you have a bar on both sides. Like just I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Well, let's get into it here. We have a little bit of NFL action to talk about, and just to for those just now joining, don't forget we're going to get into the Rashard Mendenhall tweet. You are not going to want to miss this. Make sure you stick around. Eagles 17, Seahawks 20. Now we talked about this on. What was it? Well, I guess it was Monday, right? And we didn't really have a feel for this. We thought the Eagles should take care of business. I looked at Odd Sharks. Odd Sharks had the Seahawks winning, and we were both kind of like, that's interesting. Then, once we learned Geno Smith is not playing, and Drew Lock is playing, it's even more of the point where Eagles should handle business here. Well, let me tell you, this Eagles defense is shit and got absolutely exposed once again. Drew Lock goes down, the game-winning drive down there again. Seahawks win 20-17. We've talked about Pete Carroll this in multiple situations, how it seems Pete Carroll always gets the Seattle Seahawks to play up to his competition. Now down, obviously they do the same thing, but they play up to their competition. He had them ready to go. The Seahawks looked good in this. I mean, I think the Eagles are in serious trouble here.
I think there's some very disconcerting things when it comes to the Eagles. If you're looking at it objectively and not through the lens of the Eagles fans that I talk to, Jalen Hurts doesn't look right. There's some disconnect in the locker room. I don't know if you saw his comments after the game about everybody needs to be committed in the same amount, and so on and so forth. These aren't great things to say. You're kind of throwing your teammates under the bus. Now, I know you came out and you played and you played sick, and had your flu game. 2 rushing touchdowns. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Uh-oh.
What? Oh boy,
Anyway,
here we go. He's sick.
Two rushing touchdowns in the first half for Jalen Hurts. I thought he ran the ball extremely well.
That tush push,
connects.
man.
It's just unstoppable.
They do it
but
so
listen,
well.
I think my thing with this is that you continue to let somebody hang around, right? You're up in the game, you're winning, and you continue to not put your foot on their throat and finish the job. I think I saw something where when they were up by the amount that they had like a bunch of 3 and outs. There was a field goal that was made. It would just they didn't capitalize like they should have and put away the Seahawks. And you let an NFL team hang around. And if you're going to allow Drew Lock to hang around like he did, listen, he's a professional NFL quarterback who's got swag and moxie. I've liked the kid since he played at Denver. He comes down, makes an unbelievable dime to DK Metcalf, hits Jackson Smith-Njigba in the end zone. I have a huge issue, even after that happened, and then I'll let you go. I have a huge issue with the way that Nick Sirianni handled the last few minutes of that game. My thing is that why are you taking that shot deep down the field? You're down by 3 points. You have 3 timeouts. You have a certain amount of time left on the clock. And even then, when you have like 14 seconds left, you're taking the shot down the field. All you need is about 20 yards to get into Jake Elliott field goal range, and you still have 2 timeouts. So to me, I thought the shot was terrible. Elliott just made a 61-yarder against Buffalo, a couple weeks ago in Philly when it was like terrible weather. You know what I mean? So like give the kid a shot here. I didn't like the call.
Who knows if that was even the number one look, though? I mean, that could have been something that Jalen Hurts just said, oh, look, he's burned, let's go. I don't know. To your point about, putting the throat on, Darnell Mooney had the same kind of comments to say about the Chicago loss to the Cleveland Browns and talked about in the third quarter how everybody's standing around happy that they were winning and they took their foot off the gas. And I thought that was very, very interesting to have Darnell Mooney make that same kind of comment after the game that he had. The Eagles are definitely in trouble here. They're definitely in trouble here. When you lose to the Seattle Seahawks, now the Seattle Seahawks are a good team and they are still formidable at home, which even though the three-time will probably chime in here and tell me about the Seattle home record is not what it used to be, it's still a formidable environment. It's still a tough place to play. It was cold. It was wet. It was Seattle weather. It was what it was. I've kind of said this from before. Back, I think it was last year, when the comments and the comparisons were being made between Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts. And I can't remember who it was specifically that said that Justin Fields' talent level was way ahead of Jalen Hurts. I can't remember who said that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that comment was out there. And, when I look at Jalen Hurts' game, I would say, if you want to compare it to Justin Fields off of that comment, I would have to say his throwing game is much better. But outside of that and his intangibles, I mean, it's relatively the same. So, you got to get A.J. Brown more involved here. He's your number one receiver. You got to get him more involved. You got a great running back. We'll see. Who do the Eagles have this week?
The Eagles have the easiest schedule the last 3 weeks of the year. They will.
That was including this week, though. Yeah.
Well, they'll travel and play the New York Giants. I'm sorry, they're at home to the New York Giants. Then they are at home to the Arizona Cardinals. And then they play at the Giants to finish the season in Week 18.
Well, I'll tell you, they switched up Matt Patricia to call that defense, and it didn't look any better.
I thought it looked better at times. They just didn't get any pressure. There was so many times where I was like,
okay,
I was down
but
9 points. He had Goddard. I had the defense, and they just didn't get pressure on Drew Lock. And shout out to Drew Lock for getting rid of the ball quickly. I thought as well too. I thought he was decisive. He was good in his decision making.
With that defensive line and Jalen Carter, supposedly the next prodigy, nobody can get through to that Seattle. It's just breaking news here on the Uninformed Family, just for all you fantasy football guys out there. Jamar Chase out week 16.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised about that.
There's nothing worse than your number one receiver not playing in round 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, fire up T. Higgins.
T. Higgins, baby. Be nice to have him. I wish I could have taken him down with the ship with me instead of that punk having him on his team. So with that being said, with the Eagles struggles, let's talk about most valuable player here for 1 second before we get into this Thursday night football game, and then before we get into the debacle that is the Rashard Mendenhall tweet. Front runner now. Brock Purdy is the front runner for most valuable player right now. I do believe his odds are minus 210. After that, Lamar Jackson.
Is he really minus 210?
I think that's what I saw this morning. Wow. Lamar Jackson was plus 450. Now, I do believe this was on a Get Up this morning, so I'm sure that these are ESPN bet lines. So here's my question. So it's basically between these two as I have it right now, which is a big game coming up Monday Night Football. We have the Rams versus the Ravens. I'm sorry, the 49ers versus the Ravens this Monday Night Football. We are finally going to get two good teams on primetime football. Thank you, NFL. If Lamar Jackson beats Brock Purdy, I think that puts him in the front runner. However, I would like your opinion on this. Is Brock Purdy, if you take Brock Purdy off of the San Francisco 49ers, if you take Lamar Jackson off of the Baltimore Ravens, and one more, I'm going to throw another curveball at you. If you take Patrick Mahomes off of the Chiefs, which team suffers the most? We're going to go and throw off Brock Purdy because I know you're not going to say that. Which team suffers the most?
So who suffers the most if I took away Lamar Jackson or if I took away
Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy? I mean, because we're talking about most valuable player, and I think that this term has gotten lost in the NFL. Most valuable player. This is an award that you are the most valuable player in the NFL. So that means, like, I would think of that as like WAR in baseball, right? Wins above replacements. So if somebody else comes in and outshines you, then your WAR would be less. So if I take away Patrick Mahomes off of that team, That
The
team's in
numbers
shambles.
The numbers that Brock Purdy has put up this year are
Not about numbers.
Are pretty much some of the best in the history of the NFL. In
Correct.
terms of even on deep throws, even on just QBR.
We're not talking about most talented team, though.
Advanced analytics tells you that this is one of the most historic years in the history of the NFL. I'll say this. We did lose Patrick Mahomes last year, right? Did we not? He got taken off the team when he got injured against Jacksonville. And what happened? Chad Henne came in and led them directly down the field 2 drives in a row. We did lose Lamar Jackson last year.
That's
right?
one game, right?
Tyler Huntley came in
That's a
and
good point.
played. The Ravens still made the playoffs. Not only did they make the playoffs, but they should have won that game against the Bengals, I believe, right? Was that the one where there was a strip sack and taken to the house or something like that? I don't know. I know there was a really fluky, crazy play.
I'm trying to remember the game from Monday night, bro. Not sure.
It's fair. But yeah, so I think we've seen both these teams play without that. And we've also seen what the 49ers were without Brock Purdy. And that was not competitive against the Eagles, right? So I think if you're going to tell me who's the most valuable player out of those 3, I think Brock Purdy absolutely right now.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you're telling me if I take Brock Purdy off the San Francisco 49ers, that team is going to be a significantly less good team?
Obviously, it's a different situation with having Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold wasn't there last year. They end up going with Josh Johnson, who then ends up getting hurt against the Eagles, and then you have Christian McCaffrey playing quarterback. So I understand. It is. I'm
just saying, I think when we look at the San Francisco 49ers, that's a very, very complete team. Very complete team. I mean, we can say best team out there. And the defense does allow to keep you in games, even if you're having a struggle of game. My biggest thing is we're talking about the most valuable player. I don't think that there's anybody on this planet, when you look at the NFL, doesn't say Patrick Mahomes is either probably one of the best players on the planet or definitely the best quarter. Let's take this. When we get into this Rashard Mendenhall tweet, the first thing everybody said is, who gets Patrick Mahomes? That was the first thing.
Right. Which way do the happies go?
Yeah. So we're getting into that. So let's not dive into that too much. But what I'm saying is that was the first thing that somebody said. So would that not, so in my opinion, that's the most valuable player. That's all. I think it's a little bit skewed.
He has not been the most valuable player this year.
For his team.
They haven't been good.
For his team.
Hasn't been great. Their offense hasn't been great. They haven't been that good.
Need to change it to most outstanding player. Then you can base it on stats. The 3-time chiming in from up above. So we'll see.
With that.
We'll see
with that. Most outstanding player, I think, would be better. Listen, you can talk about look at Baltimore's defense, right? They just held Jacksonville to 7 points the other night. So Lamar didn't have to do too much. Okay. Listen, the Chiefs don't play a great game. Mahomes, he was okay. But
how many receivers did he hit in the hands that dropped the ball? I mean, if those catches are made, we're talking about a completely different game. If Marquez, that's what I'm saying. He is still winning in spite of the shit that's around him, and let's just call it that. I mean, that receiving core is terrible.
Well, most drops. Say this. Look. Brock Purdy's defense gave up 20-something points to Kyler Murray. I don't know.
I'm a fan of Brock Purdy, and I think that he's definitely had a great. I'm just saying, I think that the word most valuable player, I think there needs to be some more parameters on that, because let's also say this: you can have a guy that's having a great statistical performance. Well, let's look at the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy is basically the MVP of college, correct?
Apples and oranges. Talking about professionals as opposed to playing against.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on here. Thursday night football we have coming up. We have the New Orleans Saints headed to the Red Hot Rams. Rams are favored by -4 here. This is a game that the Saints, I don't know. I think that there's got to be some type of a schematic thing with the Saints and what defense they go up against, because some days that offense looks great and they're actually moving the ball and scoring in the red zone. And then other games, they cannot move the ball one bit. I think that we can both agree on that the Saints have the wonderful privilege of giving touchdowns to irrelevant people that nobody has on their fantasy team. So shout out there. What do you think about this game here?
It's pretty funny, right? Jimmy Graham has 6 catches this year, and 4 of them are for touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just a crazy wild stat. I think the Rams win this game. I think the Rams are humming a little bit right now. Obviously, I'm never going to be a Saints fan in my life. or think that they're going to win. So let's take that with a grain of salt as well, too. Saints have really been the worst team in the red zone this year. Also, if I'm going to look at a coaching matchup, you're talking about Sean McVay versus Dennis Allen. Sean McVay, by far, give me him every single day of the week. I think Stafford's starting to roll here. I think they're going to struggle a lot with Nakua and with Kupp. And the way that Kyler Williams has been running the ball, I just don't see any way that New Orleans will be able to put up much of a fight here.
I mean, I agree. I think that the Rams are rolling, and I think this is probably why the Saints will win. Because
you never know what's going to happen either. So
I mean, just like last night, there's no way that anybody thought that the Seahawks actually had a big shot at winning this. I mean, it was a drop in the bucket.
No, especially after Geno goes out,
Yeah, exactly.
But listen, man, Drew Lock, shout out to him. Ever since I saw him rapping Young Jeezy on the sideline in Denver, word for word. And by the way, did you see Drew Lock's interview after the game?
I did not.
Really, really good. Just the emotions that I feel like he's gone through, and it was just a really cool moment to watch him talk about what he goes through. Being a backup quarterback, always being ready, and getting a moment and just being able to
play good, yeah,
to play well, and just he talked about how blessed he is, and it's just it's unbelievable, and he was like choking up in the moment, and I felt really good for the kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Add him to the list of our white people players.
No, we're not.
Let's get into this. All right, the moment that you have all been waiting for. Let's see here. Let me scroll to this right quick so I can make sure that I get this all taken care of here. Rashard Mendenhall, for those of you who don't know, was a former University of Illinois running back, also played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe won the Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also was very known for getting absolutely laid out by Clay Matthews against the Packers. And, going back through his Twitter profile, it seems like he's been very angry this year. I don't know why. Apparently somebody's been chirping him. So this is the tweet that has set the sports world really on fire. December 18th, Rashard Mendenhall, word for word. I'm sick of average white guys. That's us. Commenting.
Just ask my wife, she'll tell you.
I'm sick of average white guys commenting on football. Y'all not even good at football. Can we please replace the Pro Bowl with an all black versus all white bowl so these cats can stop trying to teach me who's good at football? I'm better than your GOAT. First of all, Rashad, who hurt you? Okay. Second of all, before we get into this, let me first make an absolutely perfectly clear disclaimer. This is the most absolute asinine tweet that I think I've ever seen in the history of Twitter. And that's saying a lot. For this man to sit here and make this comment is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. To sit there and say whites, basically say blacks are better than whites, and that white people just stop talking about black people during football. So apparently he's getting chirped on Twitter, which guess what, guys? Twitter is not a safe place. You will get chirped on Twitter. You will be called racist names. You will be called anything in the book because guess what? They're behind a keyboard and they don't have to face the repercussions. The fact that you are an NFL alumni and consider that you're better, I'm better than your GOAT. First of all, Rashard Mendenhall, I don't know if you know who the best running back in the league is right now, but he's not black. So with that being said, let me just disclaimer, this is an absolute dumbass tweet. This is where we are in 2023. We are finally starting to say the things that are said behind closed doors. I can only imagine if this was a white person that said this about a black person, the internet would be absolutely roasted. But you know what? We're cool. We're cool with it, white people. So guess what? We're going to jump into it. So we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down.
For the content, Rashad. And listen, this is something that's discussed in locker rooms all the time, right? Like, you don't think that NFL players are saying this in locker rooms of like, oh, well, if it was all of us versus all of you, you know how it would be, blah, blah, blah. But listen, what this has done, and if you've watched the internet so far this week, is that this is like something that like you would think would be like detrimental to race relations, right?
Well,
it's actually it's brought everybody together. To
kind
like,
of. There's definitely
any vitriol on.
Oh,
it,
look
you
at
know what I mean?
Oh no, look under it. Look under it. Oh my God, he's getting.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So there's definitely two ways this could have went. Right? We could have went right down the racial road where we're like, fuck you. Here we go. We're back to segregation. Which let me also tell you about. I can't wait till I get into the RG3. Or we could have been like, hey, you know what? Let's have some fun with this. The majority of people actually said, hey, let's have some fun with this. I was very surprised. J.J. Watt was the very first commenter saying, we're going to get cooked on corner.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. But you
well,
can also
there's
move a
distinct
wide
advantages.
receiver. Yeah, you can also move a wide receiver to corner, right? I mean,
Well,
they're
listen, we're gonna have to have Christian McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp playing both ways. Okay, I think there, and I don't know if this is true, but I did see one of those little, snippets that you see, and it was a picture of Jason Sehorn, and it said this is the last white cornerback to play in the NFL. Which, I'm probably right. I can't remember one off the top of my head, to be completely honest with you, that's active or that's played in the past 20 years. So that's probably right.
well, when you look at any sports, especially football, and you see 85, you can say whatever the number is. I know it's not 85%, but when I look at the people that are actually playing on the field, except for the Jacksonville Jaguars, that whole offensive line was white. I think there's like
So we have a few distinct areas that I feel like we will have an advantage in, personally. I think if you're talking about having Joe Burrow and Josh Allen as your two quarterbacks, great, right? I think tight end we have mastered. Could you imagine the different tight ends that we could roll out there? In certain situations, we don't even need to roll out wide receivers. You just put McCaffrey in the backfield with Juszczyk in front of him and all those tight ends lined up, and let's go bang, boys. I think.
Wait, I'm pretty sure we own the fullback position.
I mean, we own the kicking position. Right?
There's definitely, I think there's one black punter.
We know they got to go for it on fourth down every single play.
Well, that was also what I was thinking, though. Would they even need to? I mean, you got Tyreek Hill running slants and shit. I mean, would they even need to punt? Would they even need to kick a field goal?
So we would need to play some good zone. I think our line against, I think our O line versus their D line we'd be pretty good. I feel.
I think it would even
personally.
out.
I mean, you got the Bosa twins on the ends. I don't know. But here's the question, right?
Max Crosby.
Max Crosby. There's other questions going into this too, right? Is it just whites versus blacks? Is there do we get the Samoans?
Well, I do believe it was RG3 who said
knows where. And I thought it was special teams unlock. Exactly. Played absolutely correct.
Let me just say this about the RG3 thing, because I thought it was really great. To your point right there, it's the mix, right? Because the first thing everybody was saying was who gets Patrick Mahomes. Well, he said the mixed people all have to go in and be drafted.
I'm cool with that.
They have to be drafted.
And I could see some trades happening, right? Because you'd overlook somebody and be like, "Ooh, wait a minute, no. Okay." Like if you ever watched Chappelle's show, hilarious. Watch that; it is so funny. The racial draft is unbelievably funny. Yeah, I think it would be a good game. I think coaching.
It's not going to be a blowout, as he is insinuating right here that white people can't play football, which is what he is insinuating.
Too. Because RG3 has his opinion, they should go into a draft. Will Compton has it very straight and forward on if you're mixed. He says, do you use the word or do you not use the word? If
they all use the word.
If you use the word, you got to go over there.
They all use the word.
But if you don't, and you don't like using the word, then maybe we can take you on our side.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So he basically just said that they're all going over the blacks.
Will Compton's rant was absolutely hilarious. I just think it's like you said, it could have gone very negatively. In terms of this, and I think it's been more funny. I was watching.
Well, it depends. It depends on the people that have a sense of humor. You can see those people having the conversations because everyone knows in the back of their mind this is the absolutely stupidest fucking topic that we could be discussing, but we're all here for it. But we're all here for it. But then you have the people that are down below, right, that take this shit so seriously to where, honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, this guy's a fucking idiot, right? I mean, what are we doing here? And then, like I said, I see J.J. Watt, the first comment. I'm like, J.J., what are we doing here? We're going to entertain this?
We the members of the white delegation select Vita Vea at defensive tackle. That is
Absolutely
completely correct, John. I would also say that we should probably go after some DBs as well, if we could, because I feel like that is the biggest place that we're missing, is going to be defensive back. So we got to shore that up.
Maybe we have some of our tight ends play DBs. I mean, we got so many tight ends.
There was an idea of you could put, and like I said, Will Compton again, who was so funny because he was on with Delaney Walker doing a podcast. Delaney Walker, black tight end, was unbelievable in the league. He was super athletic, but he's hilarious and the stuff that they do. And Delaney Walker's like, he didn't say that. There's no way Rashard Mendenhall said that. He's like, he got hacked. He had to have gotten hacked. And then so he pulled it up on his phone, and you see the look on his face in the moment of looking at like, he hasn't deleted this. It's been like, this long.
Oh no.
Like, it was an entire thing. I thought it was hilarious. I think the topic has been hilarious. But I do feel like when you break it down on those levels, coaching wise, like, dude, we could roll, Shanahan, and we could roll Andy Reid out there. You could have Belichick coaching the defense. Like and listen, I know that they got good coaches too. Tomlin's out there.
Mediocre Mike.
Mediocre Mike's out there. Brian Flores is out there. I love what D'Amico Ryans is doing right now in Houston as well too. I think he's doing great things. So he'd be a good one as well. Eric Bieniemy running the offense with Tyreek Hill.
I think this needs to happen
in Kansas City. So I just I would be happy for it. But what I saw was that they were talking about the tight ends could just play press, right? You press and you just try to jam every single receiver that you can. And you play cover 2, shell, so that you try not to get burned as much as possible, and you try to get to the quarterback as quick as you can.
Let's get into a little bit of the ugly of this, though.
That would be the game plan.
I did see the RG3's response when he had a nice little. I was trying
to listen to it. I only caught like half of it.
Yeah, nice little response here. First of all, he called it the segregation bowl, not the Pro Bowl.
He's 100% right.
And he also all mix goes to the black side. That's just the way the claim works. I will say the one thing that pissed me off is he comes at the very end. He goes, just so you know, our third string black team would be any white team. Right. So that's where I start to get a little bit, hey, this isn't funny. This is your actual racial undertones coming through, because there's been some questionable comments about RG3 in the past. The Trevor Siemian, how is Trevor's? It's a shame that Trevor Siemian is playing quarterback in the NFL versus Cam Newton. I mean, you didn't say that about Drew Lock, right? I mean, there's underlying tones that, people could, and as we talked about, if this was a white person that made this tweet, this would not be going the same way. It would just not be going the same way. I believe that.
My issue with all the mixed people only going to the black side would be that, let's be honest, like most of them probably have white moms. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to be honest about the situation, they probably have white moms, and they're probably going to want to side with their white moms because
and maybe a dad.
You know what I mean? Like, and who knows if dad was even around?
Well, that's my biggest question: is what makes a mixed person automatic? Like, so when you go to check an application, right, for a job, and you're mixed, you're checking black. Why is that?
Well, we know why that is.
Exactly, we know why that is. If you don't know why that is, please listen to Candace Owen on YouTube or any other her channel. She'll be happy to break that down. Why exactly that is. Now, what? I'll tell you what.
As well too.
I'll tell you one thing that
great talks about this topic as well too on his show, and he's a huge liberal. So
I love this. I did listen to a little bit of the Pat McAfee show here on the take of this. And
with Darius Leonard, it's hilarious.
It is hilarious. There was a comment though that just it kind of stuck with me a little bit, and the comment was, if a white player cooks a black player, aka a wide receiver, a black player would never live it down.
Of course.
Like, to me, that's just the most and I see your look of concern here on their face.
I'm not concerned.
No, the look of concern on your face. It's okay. So if a white player is better than you, a black person at that position, you will never live it down. I mean, so we're basically just saying out there right now that blacks are better at whites in sports, and it's definitely in this position. And if you are not as good as a white person, guess what? You have no respect within the black community. I mean, this is when I start to feel like
it's just locker room talk, though, Tyson. Like that's just you getting.
But this isn't locker room talk. This is on ESPN during prime time. that these conversations are happening, right? And I think that, you know, when I look at, you know, kids that watch the Pat McAfee show, which probably shouldn't, which he does put on the disclaimer, you probably shouldn't.
On ESPN, they drop the F word all the time. It's the craziest thing to me.
I don't know how they're getting away with what they're doing over there.
I love it.
ESPN is just,
I absolutely love it.
it's on one of his things. I just think that, you know, when we're sitting here, we're talking about, well, if a white person cooks you, that's it. I mean, you might as well just get out of the league. And then we go through the same thing of RG3 jumping in. Well, our third stream blacks would be any first team white. I just feel like, man, while this has been some comedy on certain levels, there's some certain underlying tones here that people are starting to feel comfortable coming out with. And I don't know, man. I think that, first, like, going back to what I originally said about the tweet in general, this was an angry man that was getting chirped at by people on Twitter about things. And the fact that he says, again, because he comes out later and says, I'm simply tired of being berated by people who aren't experts in D-game. D-game. D-E space game. Not D-game. D-game. Apparently he's Jamaican. We juz, J-U-S, juz, pretend like I'm the only athlete tired of fans talking trash. You dis-upset over a single tweet. What about us? Like me or not, I'm great in football. This proves my point. You can't speak on ball alone. The only thing that I'm going to say to this is Rashard Mendenhall and the people of the NFL, NBA, when you look at America and you say it's what, 75% Caucasian, I would say. I think 16% is African Americans or blacks or whatever. Who do you think the money's coming from? Who do you think is contributing the majority?
What? Why does he's not in the NFL anymore? Why does he care?
Well, he still gets he gets paid from the NFL. He still gets his health care from the NFL.
Because he has pension and health care?
Correct.
So because he has pension and health care, he's supposed to kowtow to white people?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, but
what do you mean then?
I'm trying to say right now, he's saying, if you are a white person who hasn't played football, shut up and you don't get to talk about football at all. I'm great at my job. I'm great at my position. You suck in life. Shut the fuck up and don't talk to me about football. That's what he's saying.
It's a free country. He can have that opinion. That's his
You're
opinion.
absolutely right. He can. And you look like an utter fucking buffoon when you say it. And that's all I'm saying.
I would, you know, it's funny because I was talking with Logan about this one time, and he's like, bro, when I retire, I'm going to be the best sports bettor and fantasy football player because I know everything. And I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you right now, Log. I go, I love you, but you don't know what you're getting into in certain aspects. Like, there is a lot that goes into it. It is not simply about, and I know that you know X's and O's. I see you break down game film every single day on your IG, and you're talking about how this route concept and everything. And I know you might be light years ahead of me when it comes to that. Absolutely. But there is a factor that goes in of, you know, I've been doing this for, you know, 20 something years now. You know what I mean? And playing fantasy.
But you've never played football, so how dare you speak on it?
There's trends, there's different things that factor in that sometimes as an athlete you're going to be a little bit more blind to than people who are just observing it without having played the game, in my opinion.
But Logan, if you are listening, we would love to have you join the Uninformed Fan and put that route running to knowledge with the knowledge that we already have, and maybe we could build something great together.
He's not listening. He's getting ready for.
Well, maybe you should. Maybe
Baltimore Ravens.
Maybe you should clip it and send it to him, since you could just have him on the DMs. Clip it, send it to him. Say, hey, buddy, we love you. Love to have you. You know, when your playing career is over, come join the Uninformed Fan. We'd love to have you on the podcast. We'd love to get your insights into route runnings, because that is one of the biggest things that I would like to get into as a capper. And, you know, because we talk about a long time about the sharp says sharp this. I want to be the sharp. I don't want to depend on the sharps, which we do get all of our information, and then we digest it, and then we spit it out in the way that we see it. I do think there is a significant advantage to what you just said, though, as far as what routes these offense typically run versus what defense these guys typically run and where the weak is. I was thinking about this as I was watching the Seattle Seahawks beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I couldn't help to think to go back to Moneyball and how to develop a Moneyball formula for the NFL. The problem is being able to heavily weigh that. So in baseball, there is a Moneyball format for baseball, and it's WAR. It's the replacements, right? And it all starts with the pitcher. Right, because the pitcher controls the majority of the game. You have two pitchers, which can very easily control the game, so you can kind of pick that up. And there was a good guy, a great guy on Twitter for a long time in Reddit, back when I was doing the No Leans account, and I was doing a lot of baseball betting. And there was a formula in there, and the guy was absolutely killing it. And I think we've spoken to this on before on the podcast about Barry Horse off of Twitter. Somebody that made it big in Bitcoin, whatever. He developed the formula based off the Moneyball book and was absolutely killing it, to the point where he was killing it so much, and he was putting out these picks for free. His account went dark. And then when we talked, he came out with a tweet. He said, look, this account is getting too big. There's other factors involved. Unfortunately, I will no longer be putting out picks. And it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out what is happening there. Because why would anybody stop? I mean, his count grew like to 50,000 followers in like 2 months. It doesn't take a rocket science. But he would also put out these picks like plus 200, plus 250, and they would hit because of the Moneyball scenario. It doesn't matter who's on paper. You have the evil empire, now the Dodgers with a bazillion-dollar payroll, and then you have the Oakland A's that are coming in with a $100,000 payroll. But if you look at the actual statistics of the players, and it's minus 300, the Oakland A's actually have a good shot of winning that game. I feel like there's some way that we can incorporate that to NFL, and that is what I'm going to be working for on the offseason, is building that formula.
So building that formula, let's just hypothetically say, what would be the spread that you would lay on a whites versus blacks Pro Bowl game?
I'd take whites no matter what, just out of principle. Doesn't matter what the fucking odds are. Whatever, and that's what I'm talking about. So if I root for the whites in this game, I'm racist, right? But if there's one black Formula One driver and a black guy roots for him because he's black, that's cool. But if I root for an all-white team, like, there's the token white guy in the NBA. And yes, I see it. And I'm like, hey, there's a white guy on the floor.
That's why you love Mo Wagner.
Go whites. Guy, and that's why, like, when I look at, whites in sports in general is just becoming a minority. Even in baseball, Hispanics and all of that are really taking over baseball. Whites in sports, professional sports, outside of hockey, are really becoming the minority. So yes, when I look and I see the Jacksonville Jaguars' entire offensive line is all white, I was like, oh shit, I guess we still got some people out there. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess for me, what I would say is that in breaking down the rosters and how this would work out with current active players, kind of like the under here. But I guess the over-under would probably be set around 44.5, right? 45 maybe, somewhere around there. Could be a little bit higher, but I just think defense would dominate this game. The problem is the back end, man. The back end for the whites, I just feel like would just be so exposed.
I don't know. We had some good safeties.
Getting pounded by the blacks. So
and like you said, I mean, I think that we have to look at how many wide receivers we actually have, right? And no, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know it's not a lot, but like you said, some of those wide receivers are going to have to play free safety. They're gonna, I mean, they're going to have to get out there and do that. To your point, the tight ends can play DB. I mean, it's not ideal, but on the same token, we have to get the pass rush. I mean, you have to play contain. Like, who's going to contain Lamar Jackson or whoever is going to be at? I don't know. It's a complete rabbit hole. It's a complete rabbit hole.
I think about thinking about it, like, I would prefer to have Burrow at quarterback over Josh Allen, maybe even Brock Purdy, for the simple fact that I think
you're not starting Brock Purdy over
who is going to be pinpoint accurate when it comes to placing the ball, because the DBs are just going to jam the tight ends, right? So Cooper Kupp's going to be your only deep weapon coming off the line. I think you need somebody who's going to be able to just.
Do we get Puka Nacua
on a dot? Well, see, that's I would hope so, but probably not.
We get the Samoans, right?
I don't know. I think. I don't know. Like I said, I think you'd have to have a draft and a delegation.
The NFL is 56.4% African American. Okay. I mean, that's the number. That's not what I see on my screen. There must be a lot of bench players. I don't know. Well, I mean, TJ, you have to start Josh Allen. TJ, I don't know how you haven't noticed this about now, but Jeff is a big Josh Allen hater. He's a hater. You are a Josh Allen hater. You've been hating on Josh Allen the entire season. What do you mean you're not a Josh Allen hater?
No, but what I'm saying is that, okay, all right, fine. You can run Josh Allen, but you're not going to run Josh Allen if you're going to run like the power option play, right? And use Juszczyk as the fullback in front of him to block. I'm not, if I have to spread it out, I'd rather have Joe Burrow throwing passes out there than Josh Allen. I guess maybe you could rotate him back and forth if you want.
Yeah, I don't really care either way. I would just say, you've definitely been a Josh Allen hater this year. 100%.
I think that Josh Allen is too reckless with the football sometimes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that we can all agree when it comes to racial relations, we're going to have a tougher time building the white team than the black team is going to have. I think we can all agree on that. And so therefore, I'm expecting plus 250 odds, and I'm hammering it. 20 unit max play. I'm hammering it.
I guess the question would be too, who officiates the game? You know.
Ooh.
You know?
Ooh. Well.
But listen, if it came down to a field goal, I got us. You know. That's all I'm saying.
Evan McPherson, baby. Kickers matter.
Evan McPherson, Justin Tucker.
Oh, give me a break, dude. Evan McPherson buries Justin Tucker.
Are you kidding me?
I am not.
Tucker's...
He's been in the league longer. Wait until Evan McPherson is at that level. How many big kicks has Evan McPherson already made in the NFL? I mean, the guy literally walks out there, and as he's walking out says, well, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship because I don't fucking miss. Justin Tucker. He's a legend. Let me also, he is an absolute legend. But I think when it's...
legend. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
When it's all said and done, Evan McPherson will outshadow him as long as he stays with Joe Burrow. 100%.
TJ said he'll pay 1 month's salary to have this on a pay-per-view. The problem is the NFL would never sponsor it. You'd have to get everybody to volunteer to sign up and play this game. Nobody will want to be a part of it. It'll never happen. But it's
the players would absolutely want to be a part of this. 100%.
Egregious. I don't think so. I think the optics of it, in the way that the media would spin this, would be terrible.
Do you think that they care as long as there's a paycheck involved? And to his point, you're going to sell a pay-per-view event for $175 a household?
They could spin this in a very, very bad way in certain media outlets, in my opinion.
Well, because it's an absolutely terrible idea.
Well, it's terrible, and the tweet was terrible. The tweet was very racist, but it's also brought this situation for us to be able to laugh about and joke about together in a moment of brevity. And I think that, you know, what he intended for it to be, I don't know. I feel
no, he intended it to be exactly what it was, and he intended it to be white people stop talking to me about football because you don't know shit.
What you've had now is more whites and blacks discussing this together.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just brought more
people laughing and respecting each other's opinion, and it's brought people together as opposed to pulling people apart.
Well, I don't know about that because I'll tell you, like I said, when RG
the RG3 thing,
that pisses me off. I mean,
about RG3.
When he's doing a little, and for those who know, he's doing like a little video over the tweet, right? And then he walks off, and then he comes back and goes, "Our third string is still beating the first string," and I'm like, bitch.
RG3 thinks he should still be in an NFL backfield, so it's tough to really respect a guy like that.
I don't know, bro. Yeah, like I said, here at the Uninformed Fan, we respect all humans. We don't see it, like that. We did talk about this because it's a fun thing to talk about when you can pit. I mean, for the first time, I guess you can kind of pit race relations against each other and have it be comical and be somewhat accepted out there in the world. But let's just be clear. This was an absolutely asinine tweet. The fact that he continues to back it up is just, it's beyond me. There's zero repercussions for what just happened here. But we did have a little bit of fun building this. We did have a little fun. If it did happen, I would buy it. And absolutely, I think it is what it is.
But let's be honest. One of us would buy it. We'd all show up to the house. We're not all buying it separately at our.
All I know is I'm inviting Dino and all my black friends over, and it's going to be a fucking hilarious time.
Hell
because
yeah.
it's going to. Ain't no laws when you're drinking White Claws. No, we're not playing flag football, TJ. No.
want to see somebody Sean Taylor somebody else onto a sideline.
Before we move on from the NFL, I did want to talk about the suspension of
the Steelers kid.
Yeah, what's his name?
Kazee.
Steelers.
Kazee something Kazee. It's like his 6th fine.
Demonte Kazee. Yeah, he's had a fine or a flag every single month of this year.
Yeah, it's like his 5th or 6th, and so I think that's the reason that they just said
definitely. And I did see some stats on this. Is like 10% of the players commit like 90% of the fouls or something like this of this nature. It's a handful of people. Now
the Broncos are egregious at it right now.
Now let me also just say this. Shannon Sharp had a take on this, which I don't really agree with, but I guess that's what and he pretty much said that, the football is just not the same anymore. You have to let that guy make the catch. Yeah. There's nothing that you can do as a defensive back to try to not. Once he's laid out like that, he is basically untouchable. That's no, it is because
Tom Brady's.
Yes, I did. I did. I was getting ready to get to that, but he basically said he's untouchable. Once a receiver is laid out, he is deemed by the NFL as untouchable because you cannot do anything because he's a defenseless receiver. This is where we're at, and I couldn't disagree more. Now, I also agree with the fact of, being able to hit somebody to dislodge the ball is kind of gone. All right, that is what it is. But to your point, what Tom Brady just said is the quarterbacks have to be better at throwing the ball and putting that. Yeah. That was obviously a throw that was over his head. It did need to be lobbed over the DB. But we're playing football. And to sit there and say, as the NFL, if the ball is thrown in a certain area and the receiver has to lay out to get it, we are just going to let that happen. Because at the end of the day, why would I not just throw it all the freaking time? I mean, it's tough to hit a throw like that, to be put in that position. But the receiver is going to do everything he can to catch the ball. And to sit there and say, hey, if he's in that position, guys, you just have to let him catch it. I think that is a bad sentiment. Now, when I did look at this play, he absolutely led with the shoulder, regardless if he hit him in the head or not. But, I mean, that is also a bang-bang play to where you have to calculate how fast he's falling on the layout. There's a lot of shit going on in a split-second decision. So, going back to it, they did suspend him for the rest of the year, which after his 5th fine or whatever, I guess it is what it is. If a player isn't going to conform or change the way he plays football, then I guess you have to do that. But on the same token, I cannot disagree more with what the NFL is doing in regards to if a receiver is laying out for a ball, you basically can't touch him. I think that's just terrible.
Yeah, I think Brady just wants the quarterbacks to be better when it comes to that stuff. So.
Well, Brady's absolutely right. And we talked about this before. The product that the NFL is putting out right now is shit. It is shit. I mean, look at some of the best teams. So you have the 49ers, and then tell me your next best complete team to where you watch it, you're like, wow, this is good football to watch. When is the last time you watched a game and said, this is good football to watch? Which Bears game was it?
Back and forth?
Which Bears game was it that you saw that was
I thought the Bucs played pretty well last Sunday.
Okay, the Bucs did, but the Packers didn't. I'm talking about two good football teams that when they played together, it was a good football game all around.
I have to go back and
exactly, and that
I could tell you the let's say the Eagles and the Bills a couple weeks ago, right? That was like unbelievably good football back and forth. I'd have to
maybe the Cowboy Eagle game where it came down to the wire. But I think we can
was a great game too.
I think we can agree that when we're talking about great games.
Cincinnati, Minnesota,
and two teams,
the OT game that just happened,
and two teams that are playing well, it is a minority. It's not prevalent. There's not good football games on throughout the day. You got maybe one or two good games out of the entire slate of NFL per week. And I just think, Tom Brady's absolutely right. I think the coaching is absolutely garbage. I think, the NFLPA, like we talked about, as far as not being able to have really off-season workouts and mandatory workouts and voluntary workouts, being able to get those reps in. as we talked about, first team reps for second backup quarterbacks. I mean, God forbid if a quarterback goes down, now we're throwing somebody in that hasn't had any first team reps the entire year because of the schedule and the way that the NFLPA has to work things. I think this is what's happening. I just, everybody wants the next, Sean McVay, which he had one good year. I would be looking at the next Shanahan because, in my opinion, Shanahan's probably the best coach in the NFL, and I don't think he gets any credit for it. I mean, we're talking about Nick Sirianni over here. We're talking about how what's Chuba Hubbard down there in Dallas that has revitalized the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy. I mean, when does Shanahan get his flowers?
Hopefully this year.
When we talk about coach of the year, we talk about coaches that are absolutely killing it. No, I haven't heard anybody talk about Shanahan, which is crazy. I don't. Jeremy, who is this quote from?
The Colts assistant secondary coach and former Steelers defensive back Mike Mitchell tweeted.
Okay, he did both of those. I don't know what to tell my safeties anymore. I guess just let him catch it. If I were a wide receiver 1, I would die for every catch. That would ensure no contact and a completed pass. Playing deep safety in today's NFL where rules are mostly made by people who never played is tough. Oh, here we go. They're probably white too. White people who haven't played making the rules. Here we go. But yeah, to his point,
it's a competition committee thing that
it was a joke.
Through rules.
It was a joke.
Huh?
It was a joke.
I'm saying to him.
Oh,
he knows that it's a competition committee thing. There's nothing that he can do about it. They're the ones who are making these rules. So because CTE is not a good look for the NFL, and they're trying to mitigate it as much as possible.
Well, it wasn't a good look until they got. It was a good look until they got sued, and lost billions of dollars, and now they're doing this.
I don't think it's ever been a good look. I think they just didn't care as much.
Well, of course,
they turned a blind eye and a back to it. So
well, those are facts. I mean, those are 100% facts. Concussion, great movie, by the way. Great movie. Well, moving on.
Will Smith, right? Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith.
It's fantastic. I watched it on a plane flight.
Talk about a train wreck, man. Will Smith.
What do you mean?
You have wild stories coming out from him. You haven't heard any of this stuff? I mean, forget the Jada Pinkett Smith stuff. I mean, that stuff's just wild. His best friend came out and said he watched him getting pegged by a dude. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Let's just say there's just some wild. I mean, Jada Pinkett Smith, man, got that man fucked up. I think we can all agree with that, right? I mean, that man fucked up. Well, I noticed that Marcus Buffington isn't in the chat today, which is obviously a faithful listener here, and I couldn't imagine why. Except for when I look at my fantasy basketball team, and I see that we're beating said Marcus Buffington because John Morant is back. That's right. The Uninformed Fan fantasy basketball team is looking good. He comes back 34 points and also hits the game winner to lead your Uninformed Fan fantasy basketball team over to the lead of one Marcus Buffington. Happy to have John Morant back. Good for the league. We are really liking what's going on with our fantasy basketball team. We haven't won a game yet, and I still feel like we're riding high.
I feel like we have a decent team. Did you see the late game, the Celtics and the
I did.
Warriors? Unbelievable. Warriors are down 17 points in the third quarter, and then Steph Curry just...
This is why I can't take the NBA seriously.
Goes to overtime, and Steph ends up... It's like a... I think it was like a 1-point game or something like that.
It was a 1-point game?
There's like a loose ball. Chris Paul gets a rebound, kicks it back out to Steph, who literally... He's got like 1 second left and just catches it and throws it, and it ends up going in from like 30 feet. Incredible.
Crazy how you're not glued to Steph Curry at the end of a game.
I think they just got lost in the
exactly.
If you looked at it, every time he brought it up the court, they were running two guys at him, and that's when they were, he's hitting the 1, 2, and then a kick pass on the side. But it's just because of the scramble of the situation.
It was absolutely. But you have to know. You have to know it as a defender. When it comes to this and the rebounds being bounced around, whatever, you have to just stay on Steph Curry. He's the only one that can beat you like that. I mean, crazy shots. Crazy. To your point, it was just a catch and release, basically. Boom.
It was incredible with the speed that he caught that and let that thing go. pretty cool. But the fantasy basketball thing, man, it's been tough. You know, very much enjoy NFL football, and this is 5 years in a row now. I'll be honest, spend about $1,000 a year on fantasy football buy-ins and so on and so forth. This is the first time in 5 years I don't have any ROI on it. So it was a tough year this year. But I enjoy fantasy football because it's like it leads up to it, right? And it's one day a week, and you're leading up to it, and maybe you sprinkle on a Thursday or whatever, or in a Sunday, Monday. But man, the fantasy basketball of every single day, making moves, who to drop, who to keep, like who.
It's like baseball.
It's crazy.
It's tough. It's every day.
Yeah, and the baseball thing is really tough too.
Well, I'm here for it. The beautiful thing is that we have a team, right? We have multiple people on it. Not like anybody else who just has one. We have a team. So you know what? We're going to be just fine. We planned this John Morant thing out weeks ago. We picked him up. We sacrificed a roster spot for weeks. We
sacrificed the past 3 weeks of being competitive.
I think it was 4. I think it's been a month.
Maybe 4. Maybe it's been a month. But we've sacrificed an entire month of basketball.
Correct.
Weekly just to have him now. So hopefully.
And sometimes those are the sacrifices you have to make if you want to be on top. Well, today is national.
To do when it's eight teams and everybody makes the playoffs. You can just kind of.
I would have done the same thing. Whatever. I mean, I don't even know how many weeks this season runs. I would have been like 20 something. I don't know. So who cares if you start out 0-6? Today is National College Signing Day. Big day across the board. Some news out of the Florida State University I did see is they are now revisiting their contract with the ACC after being left out of the college playoffs. I guess I'm assuming that they realized that the ACC is just not, as Jeff said, fight for them or whatever. I did find it interesting, though, that the ACC controls Florida State's television rights through 2036.
Yeah, they have to buy out of it.
2036?
Couple $100 million to buy out of it.
Didn't they just sign into this like 2 years ago?
2 years ago, they tried to get out 2 years ago, and
so how long ago did they sign this?
It was like 2 years ago they signed it. It was literally for like.
Let's just say 20. Let's just say 20.
Money.
Let's just say it was 2020 for easy math. You signed a 16-year contract.
That's what ESPN forced them into.
How did ESPN force them into that?
The ACC?
Yeah. To sign a 16-year contract with the ACC. Because
Disney's gangsters. What are you talking about, bro?
I'm talking about
the biggest gangster negotiator that you know in terms of corporate. It's Disney. It's not that close when it comes to media rights and television.
Does Disney own the ACC?
Disney owns ESPN, who the television rights are through. So yes, yeah.
I thought the ACC had their own network.
Through ESPN, it's on the ESPN. It's on ESPN Plus. It's only through ESPN that they have their own network. What Florida State is
they have their own.
To do,
they have their own channel on Spectrum.
Correct, but just like you have ESPN News and you have ESPN the Ocho, it's the ACC network is through ESPN.
ACC Network is a 24/7 national network dedicated to ACC sports. ACC and is owned and operated by ESPN in partnership with the Atlantic Coast Conference. There you go.
What Florida State is trying to do right now is they're trying to get a workaround where they are trying to come up with a Florida State television network.
That'll never happen.
Can have their own channel. Did you see Chip Kelly's thing about it? He said that he thinks that football should be removed from college athletics. College football should be its own entity separately because it operates on its own rules anyway, and that no football team should be part of a conference.
I agree. I think it's egregious that you have West Coast teams going to East Coast.
Yeah, it should be independent. Like we have Cal on our schedule next year because they're part of they're part of the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah, on the West Coast. That makes no sense. I absolutely 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. My biggest question is Florida State's looking to get out of the ACC. We all know that. So just come to the SEC. SEC is still in partners with ESPN, so they don't lose money, only boost it. There's got to be a workaround there. The problem is the ACC is going to want their chunk.
and then the problem is that how much does that devalue your ACC media rights now? Right,
90%.
Exactly right, because Florida State, Clemson,
Florida State is the ACC. Well, yeah, Clemson.
The brand.
Yeah, two teams.
The brand, right?
Yeah, two teams.
So you're basically losing the revenue that you signed the contract for through that, So it's just
TJ did bring up a good point. The main problem was FSU was 5-7 2 years ago, and they had no leverage. I mean, that's a good point. But to sign a 16-year contract, holy fuck steaks, man. Whew. That's pain.
What's the SEC contract that they just signed?
I don't
know. Find that out.
But the SEC is the SEC. I mean,
but it just got signed last year for $3 billion, right? $3 billion was the media rights for the SEC, I believe, to take them away from CBS on Sundays or CBS on Saturdays at 3:30. They won't have that anymore. So I don't know. I mean, who are you going to see on CBS now? Is it going to be like
the SEC linked its landmark deal with ESPN that will pay an estimated $3 billion over 10 years, $300 million per season. CBS moved on to the Big Ten, paying an estimated $350 million per year on a 7-year pact. So they actually, so CBS paid more to get the Big Ten than what they would have paid for the SEC. Let me read this. Let me read this again just to make sure I'm reading. The SEC inked its landmark deal with ESPN that will pay an estimated $3 billion over a 10-year period at $300 million per season. CBS moved on to the Big Ten, paying an estimated $350 million per year on a 7-year deal. What?
So you're talking about $2.1 billion for 7 years, or $3 billion for 10 years.
That's
right.
I mean, I think this isn't money. This is just like you're saying about ESPN bullying people out, and because I mean they're going to get paid more to stay with CBS.
Disney is gangsters. They are the mob of.
In 2019,
television.
CBS declined to renew its rights to the SEC football, with the package ultimately going to the conference main rights holder, ESPN, beginning in 2024. Wow. So they probably just knew the writing on the wall. I mean, you could say that they declined to renew its rights, but were they even given the offer?
That's like one of those things. Would you like to resign, or we're going to fire you?
I've
been look good, or do you want to?
I've been sitting at that table before. I'll take the package.
You've been the one asking the question of,
Yeah. So
what would you like? So Mickey Mo, baby, Mickey Mo,
so
gangsters, bro.
Real quick to kind of clip this up here a little bit. How the hell is Florida State ever going to get out of the ACC then?
So from what I understand, and I'm sure Jamie will be correcting me in the executive chat as we speak, but from what I understand, Florida State needs somewhere around $250 million to get out.
360 is what he said. If any school wants to leave the ACC, they would have to pay an exit fee of 3 times the league's operating budget, or roughly $120 million. So it's $120 million total.
Yeah.
Oh, you got that.
Yeah.
What?
Once we stop paying Willie Taggart next year, we will have more money to be able to kick around. But them doing this and them saying this is part of their push of like, guys, we need out now. And like I said before, it's because if you look at the top 18 teams, look at what conferences those are made up of. It is Big Ten and SEC, and then you have one school, which is the ACC, which is Florida State, mixed into all that. So,
well, I mean, Bobby Bowden did come out and say that the ACC was the best road to the playoffs for Florida State. I mean, which is not a lie. I think at this point, now that the college playoffs has expanded to 12, you're pretty much guaranteed in there every single year.
That argument is so disingenuous.
But he said that.
Did he say something like that?
Yeah.
Yes. Was it when Florida State first became a program? Yes, you're talking about 30 years ago. You're not talking about
I don't think it was.
Bowden.
But I would have to, even if it was 30 years ago, I don't know if it was necessarily 30 years ago. But that sentiment.
It was 30 years ago.
Okay. Well, that sentiment would still ring true through Florida State because it is the easiest path to the playoffs. Now, this year you got fucked, and you only got fucked because your quarterback got hurt. But now that it's expanded.
I refuse to believe that narrative.
Okay. Well, regardless.
when the narrative was started in the middle of November that we didn't belong in, and that was with our starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean,
refuse to believe it.
You got fucked either way. So let's just say you got fucked. But with that being said, now that the college playoffs has expanded to 12 teams, there's no way that the Florida State, one-loss Florida State would be out of this playoffs.
I would hope not, but
that's what I'm saying. So you might as well just ride it out and continue to get into the playoffs. Because let's be honest, you just need to get in. You don't really care about the week one bye. You just got to get in.
You're talking about revenue for the entire university, though, as well, too. And the media rights and media deal that they'll be able to have by switching over to an SEC or Big Ten would mitigate in a matter of years the amount of money that they're paying the league.
Yeah, but that money goes to the school. That money doesn't go to the players, which is what you need in order to buy your team, right?
No, we have a collective. We have our
Correct.
NIL collective.
But they're not getting. They're not. The NIL's not getting any money off the TV rights. That's going straight to the school or the conference.
Correct.
But the schools aren't paying the players.
Correct.
Right. So a TV rights deal would have no impact on the players that you're talking about bringing more money in the school. Why do you care about more money for the school when it doesn't translate to players on the field?
Why would the school care about more money for the players?
Well, you need more money to the players because you have to buy your team now. But that's what I'm saying is they don't want the
separate entity. That's an NIL collect. That's a separate.
Correct. So what I'm trying to say is you're talking about the impact of revenue from moving from the ACC to the SEC.
Correct.
Yeah, that's going to affect the university, and the university is going to get more money, but that's not going to translate into a better football program.
Those are the ones
you might get better facilities, I guess. I mean, it could help improve your facilities.
The decisions, facilities, everything. I mean, coaching. The staff that you hire. All of that goes into it.
That was just my biggest thing when it came to paying the players. Is it was all about the colleges are making all of this money off these TV rights, and everything, and none of it goes to the players. None of it. I'm not going to get on that tangent again. But yes, it's going to be a very, very interesting college signing day. Now, just real quick to wrap it up, because we are getting over line. First of all, shout out to Baker Mayfield, NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
Good for him.
Following up on Tommy DeVito.
Don't say that.
He did. He followed up Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, but then it's like you're like cursing him next week, like this week.
No, I just think it's funny.
It's
just funny. So today is National Signing Day, right? So if I watch
National Early Signing Day.
Yeah, they can start signing today. So if I watch all the hoopla and all of the programs and them putting on hats and throwing it away or peeling off T-shirts, are they 100% committed to the program, or can they still back out?
Once they sign their national letter of intent, and it's sent off and received by the NCAA and the school, they are technically locked in to go to that school. Now, if they decide that they don't want to go, right, then the school has to release them from, it's basically a signed contract. The school has to release them from the contract that they signed, saying that they're going to attend that school.
And what happens if the player just says, well, if you're not going to release me, I'm just not going to play?
Okay.
So they just can't play. They can't play at any other school or anything. Is that what I'm saying? Because that did happen in Miami, right?
Happened in Miami, yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't let him out of the deal.
Was it Kamari McLean?
No, it wasn't Kamari.
Kamari Wilson?
2 years ago. No.
So I guess it's kind of locked.
The name of who it was. Jeremy might know because I think he was covering recruiting back then. It was. I don't know who the kid was. The kid basically.
I thought it was the guy from the Gators, the Kamari Wilson, that went from the Gators to the Hurricanes and then went from the Hurricanes to Colorado. Kamari Wilson. I thought that's who it was. But yeah, so they're
you're talking about Cormani McLean.
Yeah, that one
went to Colorado last year. This wasn't last year.
I didn't say. I did. That was the only one that I can remember. I don't see any dots over here, so the 3-time must be at a loss. So if they sign today, I can kind of count
at least
on
for a year.
I can kind of count on them being there.
Scholarships are renewed every year, so there's a possibility that they lose their scholarship or that something.
But doesn't that get locked into their NIL deals? Because that's what obviously brings them in. They sign like a 2-year NIL deal, or is it all 1 year NIL?
I'm pretty sure NIL just goes year by year.
Jaden Rashada is what he was saying.
No, not Jaden Rashada. Jaden Rashada never signed his national letter of intent. I don't think.
And that's what I just don't like about this whole thing. It's just like until they sign on the dotted line and I know they're 100% committed, I'm not getting behind you. Okay, I mean,
for sure. Well, listen, Florida State and Florida both supposed to have top 5 recruiting classes this year. There is one kid who we're trying to battle back and forth between right now. Jeremiah Smith, I believe, 5-star wide receiver, #1 player in the country, still undecided. He's been committed to Ohio State. He's going back and forth between the 3 Florida schools as well too. It'll be down to the wire from what they say. Even though Ohio State insiders are like,
I don't know how you go to Ohio State with the mass exodus that they already have over there, right?
Well, I mean, that's one of the issues that's going into it. But it's also like you're going to get coached by Brian Hartline. You're going to go to one of the most, regardless of what you want to say, Ohio State, amazing receivers, right? Like that they produce. They go to the NFL.
They have great collegiate athletes. Great collegiate. But its success to the NFL is somewhat questionable.
You know, I'm gonna kind of push back a little bit on that. I mean, they just had the kid on Monday night, Jackson Smith and Nigba, the rookie, who literally made an incredible catch over his shoulder on his fingertips. If you look at what Chris Olave has been doing, guys like Michael Thomas, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. is pretty much a can't miss prospect as well. I know there's 2 that I'm forgetting about right
also,
now.
I mean, he is a rookie, and I would say after the next 2 to 3 years, let's see what it is. But he is also the third option. Chris Olave is I'll give you Chris Olave, but it's not like one that we're comparing him to Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or something of that nature. I think that we can agree that he's definitely a few tiers down. Like I said, they produce some amazing talent. Their translation to the NFL sometimes is questionable. Obviously, we can look at the quarterback position. I mean, that one right there. I don't know of any running backs or anything of that nature, and I could be completely wrong. It's just not coming up to my mind at the moment.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Couple good years.
He's doing pretty well for the Patriots this year. Resurgence here. He looks good. He looks like he's lost weight.
Oh, yeah, no. So
yeah,
he said Rashada. That was the one that signed his NIL, remember? And that was supposedly all of that money. And then he backed out because it turned out to not be true, and he went to Arizona State. And then we never heard from him again. Yeah, no, that was, remember, because we were talking about the money. We were arguing about how much money was actually involved in that. And then we had numerous reports it was egregious amount. You're like, there's no way it was that. And then Florida did release them. But yeah, that's not the one that I was thinking of. But that is
one of a kid in Miami. Miami wouldn't let him out of his deal.
Yeah.
They were like, no, you're basically held hostage. Anyway, it's late. We went way over.
Good times today, though, man. Good conversations. Good conversations.
Always.
Looking forward to Friday, breaking down a little NFL action.
Yeah.
Catch me out at Epcot today. We'll be out drinking around the world, freezing our asses off in Florida.
Listen, if you're still in chat, if you can, make sure to like the video.
Subscribe, I'm pretty sure everybody that's in here is already subscribed.
Probably.
We'll be back Friday. We'll see you then. Till then,
Picks Friday.
Saturday. Stay out of the left-hand lane.
Be great.
Oh, wait, that's the wrong button.